from the shores of beautiful Nassau, Bahamas. Welcome to Walking in Victory with Bishop Neil C. Ellis. The powerful and prophetic ministry of Bishop Neil C. Ellis is impacting the lives of believers all around the world. His bold and forthright presentation of spiritual truths and biblical principles is sure to change your life forever. Get ready to experience a fresh approach to ministry as this anointed author and pastor teaches us how to walk in victory.
Walking in victory.
Hello and welcome to Walking in Victory. I'm Patrice Ellis, and I'm so delighted today to have you share with us in this program. We want to pause at the start of this telecast to wish all mothers viewing a happy Mother's Day. Know that you are amazing. You have such great capacity, not only to love your children, but you share your love throughout the world through your children. I pray that on today they will rise up and call you blessed. So here we go. I will share with you a portion of the sermon delivered by Bishop Ellis entitled, "The Power of a Mother's Love." In this sermon, Bishop Ellis points out to us the value of a mother's love. He says that the influence and impact of a mother in the lives of her children is beyond calculation. Mothers embody a great love and make tremendous sacrifices because they are connected to the God of love. Bishop Ellis said in this sermon that one of the deepest needs of the human heart is to be loved. And he further expounded and said, love is rooted in Almighty God, but right next to God's love is a mother's love. Can I get a witness? I invite you now to listen to the message, the power of a mother's love.
One of the deepest needs of the human heart is to be loved by others. Not only do we want to be loved, but we want to see a demonstration of that love. We want to hear others say something or see them do something that lets us know they love us. Any real expression of love, though, must find its roots in God, because according to 1 John, God is love. Love is not just what he does, that's what he is. And so the greatest thing in the world is God's love. Our hope and our help for life now and life to come is rooted in the love of Almighty God. But now, right there next to God's love the greatest love in human form in this world is a mother's love. It is widely accepted that the closest thing to mankind that man knows in this natural world of God's love is what he sees in the love of his mother. A mother's love is a love that never stops loving. It doesn't matter what happens in the life of her child. Does not matter how far that child strays or what that child does, or even how deep into sin that child sinks. That mother will never stop loving, never stop believing in, and never stop praying for that child. There is no stronger love in this world than the love a mother feels for her child. And when you take that love and combine it with the strength of a mother, the persistence of a mother, the determination of a mother, the significance of a mother, the intuition of a mother, when you bring them all together, she has the power to change this world. Abraham Lincoln said one time, behind every good man is a great mother. D.L. Moody, one of the greatest evangelists who ever lived, said, all that I have accomplished, I owe to my mother. The text from Matthew 15 deals with a mother who found herself in the midst of having to deal with some miserable moments while in search of a miracle, watch this, on behalf of her daughter. This woman was a Canaanite woman. That means she was a Gentile. She was a descendant of what was referred to as the accursed race. From the Jewish perspective, nothing good was ever expected to come from this class of people. So much so that the Jews had no dealings with the Gentiles. In the scene that gives context to our text, we get a picture of Jesus who ignored someone in need and who says to that person, you are not qualified to receive my help. And he does this to a mother, crying out to him in faith on behalf of not only her daughter, but what appears to be an only child. By the time her encounter with Jesus was over, her character was summed up by Jesus in 4 words. Great is your faith. Let's keep in mind now that this woman was a Canaanite woman. She was a descendant of the accursed race. From the Jewish perspective, nothing good was expected to come from this class of people. But by the time her encounter with Jesus was over, her character was summed up by Jesus in 4 words. Great is your faith. The text has her as a nameless woman. But Jesus has her as a woman of great faith. Isn't it amazing how often people can see you for far less than what God sees you as? This woman in the text, whose name we do not know, is a castaway. She never knew what it was to receive the applause of man. But her one encounter with Jesus was enough to enshrine her as one of the greatest mothers of all times. We see this woman against all the odds, pulling on Jesus for a miracle. Not for herself, but on behalf of her daughter, who incidentally is not even aware of where her mother is and what she is there for. And in a single encounter with Jesus, he says to her, "Oh, woman, great is your faith." Now, I find this very interesting, that not once in the gospel writings we see Jesus making this kind of statement to Peter, to James, or to John. He never said to Matthew, "Great is your faith." He never said to Mark or Luke, "Great is your faith." But he said it to this nameless Canaanite woman who is from outside of the household of Israel. Now, what is it that this woman did? What is it that she possessed that warranted such praise and accreditation from Jesus? I submit to you, it was attitude driven by love. Your level of living is usually determined not so much by what life brings to you as much as by the attitude you bring to life. Many times it's our own attitude that places limits on God and on what he's able to do for us. On so many occasions, attitude has been proven to be more powerful than facts. According to Matthew, the woman's daughter is grievously vexed with a demon. Nothing is said about any bodily sickness or any other physical challenges. She's plainly and simply demon possessed. One theologian said that one of the demonic spirits had entered into her body and taken possession of the girl, totally resulting in disability. A condition that her mother was unable to do anything about in order to bring her child relief. Let's pick up now in the text and let's read and let the text speak for itself. Verse number 22.
And behold, a woman of Canaan came from the region and cried out to him, saying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, son of David. My daughter is severely demon possessed."
Notice the woman says to Jesus, "Have mercy on me." She did not say, "Have mercy on my daughter." She didn't say, "Have mercy on us." She said, "Have mercy on me." In those 4 words, she identified with the sufferings of her daughter, and in one sense makes her daughter's suffering her very own. Some of you have been caretakers for sick family members, and you know that feeling. Their illness literally became your illness, and their suffering your suffering. The same is true in this woman's case. And she did not say, have mercy upon my daughter. She said, have mercy on me. She has nursed her daughter. And it has taken now everything out of her. She has nothing else to offer. And so she goes to Jesus, asking literally for her own healing as much as she's asking for the deliverance of her daughter. Listen to her. I know I don't deserve your help. I'm not a part of the house of Israel. I'm a Gentile. I'm a part of the accursed race. But please, sir, have mercy on me. My daughter is grievously vexed with a demon, and there's nothing else I can do. She cried out to him. She poured out her soul to him. And she waits for him to say something. But look at what he says in verse 23.
But he answered her not a word.
According to verse 23, he says nothing. Look at the picture. She has worked her way through the crowd. Matter of fact, she crossed over boundaries to get to the crowd because she does not belong in the crowd. Then she works her way through the crowd, and when she finally gets to Jesus and addresses Jesus, she's ignored. While she is digesting this, look at what else happens in verse 23.
And his disciples came and urged him, saying, send her away, for she cries out after us.
The disciples interrupted and begged Jesus to get rid of this woman who is crying out to him for help on behalf of her daughter. Ladies and gentlemen, in the first place, the disciples are thinking more highly of themselves than they ought, because this woman was not talking to them. This desperate woman in need of help and healing for her daughter was talking to Jesus. And so many people in our lives are quick to speak and slow to hear. And so were these disciples. But you got to keep in mind, anytime you are after a goal, you must watch out for the people factor. At this point in the text, these disciples became a distraction. But this woman didn't let them shift her attention away from something of great importance to something of lesser importance. She stayed focused. Jesus was her target, not the disciples. And she was not prepared to allow an untargeted group to block her or to stop her from hitting her target. In verse 24, Jesus finally answered the woman, and look at what he said.
I was not sent except
to who?
The lost sheep.
The lost sheep
of the house of Israel.
Wow. Jesus finally answered her, and he literally tells her that she did not qualify for his help since she was not from the group he was sent to. But look at the woman's response.
Then she came and worshiped him, saying,
She came and worshiped him. This Gentile woman had no resentment, no bitterness. She was willing to accept Jesus' help on any terms Jesus was willing to offer. She was determined and she was persistent in her goal and willing to accept whatever help Jesus could give. And quite frankly, Jesus had now become to this woman her only hope for her daughter's deliverance. Like Abraham, she did not waver. Like Jacob wrestling with the Lord in Genesis 32, she would not let him go until he blessed her. She fulfilled the pledge of Jeremiah 29:13 and 14. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And I will be found by you, declares the Lord of hosts. This woman swallowed her pride in order to get the help that her daughter needed. She was not prepared to let criticisms, innuendos, or silence push her aside. When it came to getting help for a child, quitting was not in her spirit. Winston Churchill said one time, "You will never reach your destination if you stop to throw rock at every dog that barks." She went to Jesus on behalf of her daughter who needed deliverance, and she was not prepared to quit before she got what she needed for her daughter. That's the power of a mother's love. There are at least 3 intimidating factors that could have kept her away and kept her from persisting. First of all, it was the silence of Jesus in verse 23.
He answered her not a word.
It was the rebuke of the disciples in verse 23.
Lord, get rid of this woman. She's becoming a bother.
It was the shocking words of Jesus in verse 24.
But he answered and said, I was sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
And look at how the woman responds to that in verse 25.
Then she came and worshiped him, saying, Lord, help me.
Watch this now. Disappointment drove her to worship. Insults, innuendos drove her into worshiping the King of Kings. She didn't allow herself to be captivated by discouragement. She heard the insults. She heard the innuendos. She felt the rebuke. But she had such a love for her daughter, she was prepared to swallow her pride and honor Jesus because she needs his help. And she is not there looking for help for herself. She's there because of the love she has for her child. And look at what she cried, saying, Lord, help me. In that cry were the future of the woman and her daughter. Their future depended upon getting a response from Jesus to that cry. I said to you earlier, I say again, she swallowed her pride. She ignored the dismissal and she kept pressing. This woman did not argue with Jesus. She made no claims. She made no demands. She understood she was a Gentile and not a Jew, rendering her legally unqualified for Jesus' help. So she relied totally on his grace, his mercy, and his compassion. She fell at his feet and worshiped him and cried, saying, Lord, help me. If you are struggling in any area of your life, use your Mother's Day cry. Lord, help me. While everything nailed down looks like it's coming loose, and almost everything around you is changing, don't be discouraged. Just cry out, Lord, help me. If on this Mother's Day you're carrying a burden for your child or your children, please hear me. Today, there is a release tied up in the outcry, Lord, help me. That was the woman's cry then, and this could be your cry today. Everything you could possibly need God's help for is wrapped up in that plea, because this plea is actually a prayer. Lord, help me. Lord, help me with my family. Lord, help me with my children. Lord, help me within my decisions. Lord, help me in my struggles. Lord, help me with my doubts and my fears. Lord, help me to cope with my challenges. Lord, help me in the midst of this pandemic, through all the changing scenes of life. Lord, help me.
My friends, what an encouraging and relevant word to help mothers in this day and time. Can a mother's tender care cease toward the child she bears? God has indeed spoken with clarity through this message. And I leave with you these words from Bishop Ellis. You are not out of the reach of God's love. That's mothers. That's everyone. You're not out of the reach of God's love. So until next time, I need you to ponder on those words until we come together again. I'm Patrice Ellis, and on behalf of my husband, Bishop Neil Ellis, and the entire Walking in Victory team, happy Mother's Day. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's program. I invite you to join us again next week at the same time. So until then, I need you to remember that you have been anointed to walk in victory.
Troubles can make it seem like you can't reach your dreams, but know that you've been made free and you're walking in victory.
Bishop Neil C. Ellis and the Mount Tabor Church family in Nassau, Bahamas wish to thank you for viewing the Walking in Victory broadcast and invite you to tune in next week to experience this powerful prophetic ministry. Should you wish to correspond with Bishop Ellis, please write him at P.O. Box N9705, Nassau, Bahamas, or email him at info@neilellisministries.com.
Walking in victory.